All right, I got 7:06, so we'll go ahead and get settled in. Slide that back a little bit. All right. Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and since Beverly's not here, she's going to be doing the minutes off the recording, so we'll go ahead and I'll just do a quick call of the roll. David Thomas, I'm here. Alan Carmen is here. Beverly Atwood's not. Tommy Belcher's not. Jeff Gregory is here. Mark Presley. Amber Russell is not. Lonnie Taylor. And that is enough for a quorum. If you'll look on the back of your agenda, you've got our last meeting's minutes. I'll give you a moment to look over that and I'll entertain a motion to accept. Or,
Motion to approve if nothing's changed.
all right. Lonnie's got the motion. Mark's got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to our discussion points here. So solid waste, what do you got for us, Cliff?
Okay, so solid waste, as far as the dumpsters, we want to talk about the fees or where we stand with equipment?
I think we need to carry both of those.
Okay, the fees, we received a lot of calls and concerns about the fees. And, we're still working on a couple of things. One, there's two counties in Middle Tennessee now that does not allow outside sources to come in and service their solid waste just because of the mess that the contractors tend to leave. I've brought pictures of that before, so we're working on that. Another thing is, we had a pretty good price set at around $63, and then somebody made a motion to up it to add 15% to it. And that took a $35 dump to $72.66, more than double. And it's just a burden on these people. When I say it's $35 a dump or $63 a dump. Let me clarify one thing before we get back to this. We anticipated a contract with Smith County Landfill at $50 a ton. The contract wound up being done at $55 a ton. So it's a little bit more than we anticipated. Back to the other. I want to bring this back to y'all and just ask that we can get it. We talked about once, twice, three times a month, and billing is going to be a nightmare. We have an old system. We're working on getting a new system that'll account for all that and adjust the payments as necessary. But if we go to $63 a dump, that's a $26 per dump increase. And when I say that, when we dump a dumpster, it might have 300 pounds in it. It might have 100 pounds in it. It very seldom has over 800 pounds. The truck's got an 8,000 pound limit as far as lifting capacity, but each day we tend to haul off 10 tons a day. And we're talking about how many dumps a day? 25, 30? Between 20 and 30 a day. When we figured this, I spent days on this, and at the current rate we brought to you at 63.19, we were making all the payments, buying all of our dumpsters. Everything looked real good. So I'm really hoping we can go back and talk about this and maybe just set the rate at $63. Like I said, that's an additional $26 a dump. I hadn't seen Tracy hardly any this week to talk about this. We've both been busy, so that's where I'm going to leave that.
So what's the body's thoughts on reducing that feed back down to 63?
I make a motion, if Mr. Cliff, feels it's, fair, I would make a motion to lower the fee to 63.
Do I have a second on that? Mark makes the motion. Lonnie makes the second. Any discussion?
Another thing about this is we signed a 5-year contract with Smith County, gracious. Macon County's paying, almost twice that. Who did I talk to the other day? Was it you? They're paying almost twice that. And where are they hauling it to? It's way up in Kentucky. It's an hour trip for them one way and an hour trip back. Huh? Oh, yeah, it's up north of Bowling Green somewhere. So, you know, for us, it'd be an hour and a half up there and back if we could even get a contract and get in with them. That's the thing now. It's just, it's hard to find anybody to allow you in. Smith County's always been good to us. Anytime they've had, something they need a little help with, we could help them. We reciprocate, you know, they've had trucks over here that need a tire aired up. And we run out there and air them up and get them home. So they've always been real good to us. And, like I said, we'll have this for the next 5 years, at the $55 a ton, and we keep this at 63 for 2 years or a year and 2 years and bump it, you know, another $5 every 2 years. That way we'll be set by our next landfill increase. We'll be more than set for it. If not, we'll have to make more adjustments then, but I'd be more comfortable raising it a little at a time versus all at once.
Well, I believe it's been noted here multiple times that Smith County's been more than fair with what they've been charging us, and they are the cheapest option for us at this time. The idea of us doing a landfill again in Trousdale County is just, I mean, I don't see how we can afford to do it. I mean, we're still maintaining the one that is already closed. And that's costing every couple of years. State doing seal inspections on that indefinitely. So for us to try to open it, you're going to end up with the community upset because you've got another landfill in someone's backyard. So, I mean, what we need to look at though is as the cost does go up, are we keeping up with that? So I think what you're stating is a fair assessment. So I'm wanting to make sure that there's no other discussion before I call for a vote.
You can call a vote on that, but back to the landfills, we have a notice intent to close those, with the state. They will still be inspected. There won't be any more water sample. Hopefully there won't be any more water sampling or anything like that. We still have to maintain the landfills. That's indefinite. But on the landfills, we were up there today and I've probably got 3 weeks worth of, ice damage. It's so close to Macon County and y'all know what Macon County received, and both of the landfills are in dire need. We're going to have to spend a lot of time up there in the next few weeks.
All right, so let's go ahead. We've got a motion and a second to lower the dumpster fee back down to 63 a dump. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So how are your trucks handling? I know you just said that you're going to have to spend quite a bit of time up, you know, I guess that's just clearing brush and whatnot.
Yeah. We got a new backhoe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, so we're kind of ready with that. The highway department already has their track loader up near the area at the gun range. We keep some wood chips pushed up there for target practice for the sheriff's department and Core Civic out here. So we kind of stay on top of that. 2 of my roll-offs are starting to see some age. My 2010 is got a lot of miles on it. I don't have the mileage with me today. Like I said, we were busy up at the landfill, just clearing the lanes where we could get to the tops and check everything out. So I know it's getting some age, and we've always had 2 good trucks with 1 backup in that department. So that being said, we've got a 2016 Western Star. Let me see if I can find the mileage on here. Anyway, yeah, 192,000 miles, which is no real miles for this truck. It'll run a lot longer than that. However, it does have an Allison automatic transmission in it that has two coolers, one in the radiator and one that's made onto the front of the truck that also has coolant running through it. That tank has since ruptured and caused the transmission to shell out. Basically, we're going to have to put a new transmission in it. The total for that transmission is $21,115.13. They do now make a test strip that they send us to show what fluid would look like in the transmission. All of our vehicles, except for the 2010 Mac, has these transmissions. So we're going to find some of these test strips and start doing tests of our own, at least monthly, if not weekly. I just don't know how high the strips are yet. My mechanic's been out with some sick children this week. So as soon as we can get those in, we're going to start testing them on a regular basis. However, to get this truck back, that's what it's going to cost. I have exactly that much money in there, but I don't have anything to cover me for the rest of the year. So I may have to come back and beg a little later on.
So with that issue, I actually have a little familiarity with that myself. The Ford Mustangs have the same kind of situation with the motor where the cooling system cools the oil. And I had the same problem where the cooling line ruptured and I ended up with coolant in my, or oil in my coolant. That being said, on your situation with the transmission on those trucks, is there a separate air to transmission fluid cooler that you could retrofit on those trucks to keep the coolant away from the transmission?
We may be able to do it on a couple of the older trucks, but 3 of the newer ones, the Volvo and the 2 Peterbilts, they're still under warranty for quite some time, so we wouldn't be able to do that. I can talk to my mechanic and see about changing it over. If it can be done, he can do it. Just have to talk to him and see.
I just hate for us to spend the money for a new transmission and then it happen all over again. That was the issue I had with my car. So as far as your upcoming budget request, you said you had just enough money to get this transmission fixed, but then, so what is your department looking at, just kind of roughly, as far as your needs?
As far as the solid waste goes, there's actually no real purchases that we need in 116. 111's in pretty good shape, and actually the park's in good shape. We'll probably need about what we had last year plus 3,000 to 5,000 just because tires are going up and we continue to buy tires. We didn't buy as many this year, or haven't so far this year, because we got 2 new trucks and we've just been running those tires and they're starting to get a little thin. We've actually put a set on 1 truck already, but we're doing pretty good. I don't think we'll ask any more than 3 or 4% to next year. If it's that much, I doubt it'll be that much. We're plugging along. We're doing good. If I'd asked for anything, it would be pay increase. I hate to sound like the rest of them around here, but my guys are the least paid in the county, and we're in dangerous stuff every day. We handle adult diapers, we handle needles and syringes, we see meth pipes, we see meth labs, we see the same stuff the other departments see. So, we're paying them $12 and $13 an hour, where the rest of them are topping out.
Any discussion on that?
I would like to add that most of y'all were here at the last meeting, but I am 4 hands short right now, and we're fixing to start the mowing season. So I weed eated last year, and I'll weed eat this year to keep it up. But we'd really like to get some help. I'm tired of weed eating.
Any discussion on that? Cliff, have you looked into, the cost of those 4 employees? Would that offset hiring a private company to come in and do some of that for you, to offset some of that?
We've talked about maybe getting some in here to help with the mowing this year, just because of the Ward School project. We spent a lot of time and energy up there trying to get it prepped up and ready for the remodel. Luckily, we've had a lot of help. We had three guys that were hired on through the state program that didn't cost us anything. I think they had right at 200 hours apiece to work. So, we had tremendous amount of help up there. Plus it's been winter and cold and rain. So, all my people have been in and out of the weather, and we've got a lot done up there. So, but now that the grass is starting to grow out, we may be able to let them do some mowing, but I think we mow 27, is it 27? 27 spots in the county. So it'd just be a tremendous burden to the county to put that, on them. We've got two good lawnmowers. We spent quite a bit of money at the end of the year on the 2005, I'm sorry, Exmark mower. And then we've got the new one, the 23 or 24 model. So a couple of years, we'll probably be asking for a lawnmower through the Parks Department. But right now, like I said, we're in good shape, and I've got some excellent help. My guys are top of the line, what I've got. I just need a few more.
And I guess my thought on that was, so like the park where it's one big area to mow, that we could hire maybe outside, and then your guys can take care of the other ones. That way a company just comes in, hits it, and then they're done. If it offsets until you can get those other four guys in, just to help you out in the meantime. Mark, you had something?
Until we could get, hire some people, the most trusted inmates could, they fill in till we could hire some people?
I don't, that would be something for Cliff and the sheriff to discuss. I don't know if that's an option. Do you have any feeling on that, Cliff?
I missed the question. I'm sorry. Could you ask it again, Mr. President?
Well, he was asking if the trustees could help with, some of the mowing.
Until hire somebody.
I don't think that'll be possible. Bray's short anyway. He's had days here lately where he hadn't had an inmate in his vehicles. His two guards are having to run around and do most of the stuff that usually the inmates have to do. So no, I don't think that'd be possible.
So we'll move on down to buildings. I know I talked with Josh Mink from Capital Electric on the generator situation. He is still waiting for a hard, fast delivery date on that generator. When it's going to be actually leaving the manufacturing and coming to here, because he's having to line up forklift truck to be able to remove the old and set the new. So I did not hear anything from him this afternoon. So I'm assuming it's going to be next week before he gets a hard date on that. But he's got four guys that are set up that whenever that hits, the plan is he's going to come in on a Saturday. They'll get everything moved over. They'll cut the electricity once Rita's office is closed, and finish everything up that weekend, so that we'll be back operational by Monday morning with no issues. That's the plan. We'll see how it goes. I know, Cliff, you were working on the grand jury room over here for having meetings. How's that coming along?
I hadn't spoken with Amy about it in a while. Like I said, we've been backed up. If we've got the floor approved, Lee Elmore's waiting on us. He lost his place last month. The fire burned him completely out and all the businesses around him. But he was blessed and found a lot bigger building, and he never, as far as I know, he told me he never missed a day. They just kept moving. So he's ready to go if you guys are. And we do have a conference table that we can put in there. I'll have to measure it, make sure it'll fit, but that table will fit in there. It'd be big, but it's a nice table with matching chairs and stuff. So it would be nice to have in there, and we'll see.
So just to refresh everyone's memory, the thought is we've got this room right here, to be able to, instead of meeting at the mayor's office, to be able to have subcommittee meetings here, to have a camera set up so we can better video than what we're doing in the mayor's office. And then if there were certain subjects that come up and you need a larger audience, for public to view, then we could move out here. but it kind of gives us the way it used to be where we were in the small courtroom downstairs for subcommittee meetings, where you still had a close proximity, weren't so much echo, and everyone spread out, a little more conducive to conversation and getting some actual work done. So that's the purpose of that renovation going on. Is there anything else on the buildings that are coming up that we need to be aware of?
Nothing major. Like I said, just maintenance. This year, maybe, I don't know if we'll get to it this year or not. But definitely next year, we're gonna have to rent a sky lift. We're fixing to start stripping these windows and start repainting outside the courthouse. It's losing its color, so we want to try to get everything repainted and save it. We painted a lot of the back on the outside a year or two ago, but we just never did rent a lift. Those lifts are very expensive if you get up over 2 stories, so it'll take quite a bit to reach the roof and the steeple and things like that, but we're gonna try to get all that done this year or next.
How's everything working out at the admin building?
I make a pass every day. I don't get it. Nobody's throwing rocks at me, so I guess we're doing better.
All right, the next on our agenda is the temporary use permits. I don't know how many of, well, I guess just about everyone was here for the last meeting. Rosalie has, I'm gonna let you go ahead and come up. Go ahead, Cliff.
Yeah, I want to back up. I think it was, no, sometime last year. I don't think we've had a meeting since then, but we've since overtaken the pesticide control for the county buildings as well. We had a company coming in and we'd follow them through, and the ladies in the offices would watch them, and they could spray every building in Hartsville with 1 can of spray. We just wasn't satisfied. We were seeing insects everywhere and critters all over all the buildings, spiders, roaches. So we decided to start doing it ourselves, and we've had a lot better luck with what we're using. So I guess we'll just continue to do that. It's just some other way we can save a little bit of money.
Well, I appreciate you taking that on, Cliff. Are there any issues with, as far as the pesticides that you're using, or are you just using off the shelf stuff?
It's just off the shelf. We've got MSDS sheets that we send out to everybody, and we're getting them all on a steady schedule. The jail will have to probably do a little more often just to keep the state satisfied as far as as far as their consistency in spraying that. But we're so far so good.
All right, Rosalie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, of course, everybody's heard how we have worked diligently and combined the ordinances. And in going through and trying to scrub everything, we discovered that we have something in our ordinances that we haven't been utilizing to its fullest, dealing with temporary permits. So we have temporary use regulations that address a lot of different things. Seasonal sale of farm products, get a temporary use permit. Real estate sales office, even religious tent meetings, carnivals, festivals, manufacturing of road materials. And so all of these are already in our ordinance. And the temporary permit already has guidelines on different items that have to be met, and they're particular to the various use, as such as the exact number of off parking that you need to have. You'll have to submit a site plan, what happens with that. In the Hartsville ordinance, all of the requests would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and then those that were in the county was going to just the building inspector. And again, it still had to meet all the different things. So has this been used in the past? Yes, believe me, I had to scan in when I first started in the office, all of the old permits from way back when, and I saw temporary use permits were being utilized. And in fact, every year, when the fireworks set up over at the park, he would come in and he would get a temporary use permit. So it's detailed out for what zone is allowed for various uses. And so we have a framework here that we can kind of massage, if you will, for what we need for the park and other circumstances, things being held at the high school, car shows, things like that. And that way, everybody's treated equally.
Cliff, I know your department's been handling this for the most part. Is this something that, I know with all you've got on your plate, is this something that you wouldn't mind handing over to Rosalie with the software that she already has in place that the county's paying for to handle that for you?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, there's still a couple of things that go down in the park that actually does happen on Mr. Holder's property. I know Maggie has her little flea market down there 2 or 3 times a year in the summer, so that wouldn't go against us. But as far as birthday parties and things like that, where we just do our regular rentals, I wouldn't be interested in anything like that. I just we're fine doing those as far as birthday party goes. But now anything over a certain amount of people, say 30 people, we just have to refer them to Miss Rosalie for something like that. To have to do all that just to have a birthday party seems a little bit out of the way.
I agree, and I don't think that's what the ordinances are really geared toward. I think it's when you get over that, 30 vendors or, you're renting out, multiple pavilions and grassy areas for a large, festival or whichever it might be. If you rented out the amphitheater and, we're expecting to have, 200, 300 people, I think that's what that temporary use permit is really for. And I think that's better suited, personally, my opinion, is for codes to handle that. They're the ones that know the different codes for different zoning and like she said, the parking issues. I don't think that's fair to throw that on Public Works. I think they've been doing an amazing job with everything else that they do. And I think this would give them maybe some breathing room. I know it will be brought up in codes and zoning at the next meeting next week. Um, and so I don't want there to be I don't want this to become a stumbling block for having events. But as Rosalie just mentioned, it all needs to be on an equal playing field. Everyone needs to be held to the same standard of liability coverage so that the county's covered, so that a handful of people aren't causing lawsuit risk for the whole of the county. But I enjoy having the events here myself, so I don't want to do anything to completely discourage it, but there needs to be some transparency and knowing if you're going to have an event at a certain size, and that needs to be determined. And I think that is better handled at codes and zoning to set those limits on those codes. But I did want to bring it up here, give Cliff a heads up and see if that would be something that he was able to give up on the larger venues. I don't see where the park and the community center are similar enough to have the same restrictions and whatnot on. There are some that, as they discussed in the previous meeting, the liability insurance says no inflatables. Well, that means no inflatables on county property. So that would be something that's held across the board. But I mean, the park has, outdoor venues where the community center doesn't. So there'd be things you'd be able to do at one that you wouldn't do at another. So I think Parks and Rec can handle the park, and if we need to make any changes on the community center rental or any of the other county properties, I think we can handle that here with buildings. Or we can pass it on up to codes and zoning and let them send us something. Whatever the body's willing to do on that one. Any discussion on that? All right, well, just to make it official, can I get a motion on whether we want to turn that over to codes and zoning for inspections, or do we want to just keep it with Public Works?
I'd say it needs to go to code and zone.
Second.
So I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Well, that's one less thing you'll have to deal with, Cliff. And we'll get a set number of how large an event would be before it gets kicked over to her. I agree with you. If you're gonna have a little family reunion of 50 people and rent 2 pavilions, I don't see why that needs to go before anybody. I think codes and zoning needs to address the whole going to BZA thing. The fee that go to before BZA, I think is a little excessive for what we're discussing. But that's something for another committee to discuss. Mayor, is there anything that you're wanting to bring up?
Well, I guess we probably need to address, for instance, is Chamber of Commerce considered county if the Chamber of Commerce wants to have an event, which would be a not-for-profit event? Do they have to go through the same chain of command? Just checking. Thank you.
I mean, in all honesty, I mean, the Chamber of Commerce is an independent body. That would be something to look at, being that they are an independent body of the government, of our local government. However, I would like to try to just keep in mind that we need to have some sort of a unified document. There might be a set of provisions for the community center that doesn't apply to the park and vice versa, but it needs to be a unified document instead of having several floating around. Check this box moves you to this section sort of thing. But I don't disagree with Mr. Saley at all. I mean, there's provisions for everything, but
And I think that can better be handled at codes. And we can address that next week at that meeting. Because I agree with you, as as codes and zoning had already gone through and done the zoning side of it. Now this is something we can address with the code side and try to start cleaning up some of the county codes that are outdated and whatnot. But on the buildings, it's just a matter of, I mean, we have these nice buildings. I mean, the community center, there's very few buildings other than at the high school that'll hold that many people for an event. I'd like for it to be a little bigger, but we lost that opportunity with some others. But for the community to be able to have a space to be able to use, and some small businesses I know have used that facility to be able to have a little mobile store in there, a little pop-up to make some extra money for themselves. I know at the park, the farmer's market, there's been some to a point, I think that's a fair use of that area. But as it starts encroaching and the size gets bigger, you're pushing onto another property owner, and you're trying to, when you're doing those larger events with that facility, it'd be the same as if you had an event at the community center and then all your parking blocked all the downtown businesses. I don't think that's fair to everyone else. So that needs to be taken in, the parking for those events needs to be taken into consideration. Mr. Mayor, as far as the idea of, since this is buildings, of purchasing the radio tower property, is there anything you need from us?
No, Mr. Sudbury, who is the person to negotiate, has just been really busy, and we've tried to hook up a couple of times, but I'll be tracking him down. The last time I talked to him, he said things would slow down for him next week. So I think one of the issues is where they could move that tower. I think there's also some issues with how much copper pipe is underground, but I don't think that would affect anything we wanted to do above ground. But I'll be meeting with him in the next couple of weeks to bring back a report.
the tower, the way that works is there's a web. It looks like spokes on a bicycle rim that go from the tower out, and they go out a significant distance for the amount of wattage and the height of that tower. Those are called ground radials. Those radials for that high of power would be somewhere in the, I mean, my guess would be somewhere in the neighborhood of probably maybe 1 aught. They're large ground radials. Now that would be a multi-stranded copper wire that's probably less than a foot under the surface. And there's a lot of them that's on there. So if you were going to run a blade through there, you'd want to make sure once you did acquire that, you'd want to get that all up first. It would be a mess to hang that up with any kind of equipment, but other than that, there is no hazmat or anything like that would have to be abated. It's just some ground plane.
Well, if we ever want to take the tower down, we just bring Woody Badger back.
You can do it real quick with a bush
That's a
hog.
joke. Someone did contact me this week about using the farmer's market little buildings. And they're located on the Holder property, so I'm assuming if they get permission from the holders, they can have the farmer's market. Cause it's not on our property. Is that correct? I'm sorry? Even if it's on their property, okay, on Holder property. Anybody's from, okay. Thank you.
Rosalie, I know there's been, with some new state laws, there's been some issues with giving more freedom to agricultural zoning. Would that then apply in this situation for the farmer's market?
So basically, the state of Tennessee loves farms and they'd love to promote agritourism. If that's on their property, it's promoted. But it's going to be on somebody else's property, a different lot, a different zone. The farm stand permit is the one that has really the most permit time. So you get one permit and it's good for 6 months.
All right. Is there anything else that needs to come before the committee?
I got one question, about the pay. How do you figure they're starting pay, and do they got a top out pay, or once they start, they just make that amount until we decide to give them a raise? But how does that work?
And you're referring to solid waste?
Yes.
Well, since we have Ms. Thomas sitting here, what you got?
So the starting pay actually came from the wage study that happened back in 2021, somewhere back there. I will say for the record, it is outdated. The commission does need to review starting pay for all departments, especially Public Works. But then as far as increases, the commission at budget time then gives the increases at that time as far as 2%, 5%, whatever the commission decides. As far as the wage study, there was a merit-based system built in, but it hasn't been used since the first year. I'll just state that because most department has just said, yes, they're all great. Everybody's great. So there wasn't really a merit included in that. Everybody was still getting the same increases. That is correct.
The thing I was looking at, he says he's doing all this spraying, and I know when you hire somebody in there to do that, they charge a lot. It might be something, look at, well, this is how much money I'm saving a year by using my guys to spray, and that would maybe help give them more money too.
And Ms. Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you really can't do that because the raises are unilaterally across the county of all employees that are hourly based. So when you start singling out one department versus another, they all get a little picky about it and get hurt in a certain way. So, I mean, we've run into that when we've given EMS raises. Well, then the sheriff's department wants more, and then the sheriff department, they get theirs, and then EMS wants more, and no one's even thinking about Public Works, but they're the ones cleaning everything up. Yeah, and just doing their job. And honestly, they're the most efficient tax dollar spent for what they do of any department that we have. And I'll argue that point with any other department head that wants to argue it. Another question I did have, I've had several people ask Cliff on the, back to a Public Works here, the flower beds down along Main Street here in front of the courthouse. Is there any plans on freshening that up for the spring, or are we gonna hire someone to kind of maintain that, or what's the deal on that?
When we order for the park, we're gonna order for downtown too. We've still got another probably 20 or 30 yards of mulch to get out on the other side of the street. Winter kind of pushed us back, but we've got to get that done and then we'll start, putting everything out.
All right. Any comment from the public? All right. Anything else?
Adjourn.
Yep. Well, I got a second on that? All right. Lonnie's motion, Jeff seconds. We are adjourned.
Thank you, sir.